In today's video, I am going to be breaking down David Kouadio, one of the best 12-year-old basketball players right now, and his defense. He was able to lock up a very good player, so let's get down and let's check out what he was able to do so that you can do the exact same thing in your game. So coming off of this defensive rebound, he's able to get that ball free out of that defender's hand, or out of that offensive player's hands. As soon as he's able to control that ball, he's essentially going to be looking up court at that point to see if there's any outlet players. But at this point, he is the only one and he is the lead man. He is able to get ahead of all of the defensive players, and he's able to push the ball down court. Your best defense is your best offense. However, really quick, let's see how many dribbles he actually takes transitioning from defense to offense and scoring. At this point, he is at the free throw line on the other side of the court. He controls that ball. He takes 1 dribble, 2 dribbles, and 3 dribbles and gets all the way down court and scores. The minimum amount of dribbles possible is the best, because what moves faster, you dribbling or you not dribbling? Obviously, you not dribbling, and that is why he's able to get down court so fast ahead of these defenders. By the way, he's playing 1 year up. So one thing that David does extremely well here is that he forces this man to go right. Now, this is an actual very good skill to have. At this point, he's almost playing him straight up, but he's giving his top foot right there when he hops out. Check out how low he is. He's almost sitting in a chair. He's keeping his shoulders lower than his offensive player's shoulders. And then even when that player is trying to drive, David is still able to keep down low. He's able to shuffle his feet with his man. He then directs that offensive player, who is the other team's number 1 scorer. He scores at least 75% of his team's points every single game. In this game, scored 0, which is fantastic, so good job to David. However, he was able to lead him into a help defender who was able to get his hands into the play and back up that offensive player, who then was forced to pass that ball away. Here, the player is cutting backdoor. David has position in the passing lane to tip that ball away, and he's able to do so right here. At this point, the ball is on the ground. He's able to then get his body on top of it and pick the ball up and now dribble down court. The first thing that he does is he looks for that outlet pass, but there was nobody in the outlet zones, which means that he needs to either hold the ball and bring it up slowly or attack the defense. Well, attacking the defense is the smart decision here, because we've got one player who's on his heels and one player whose back is to him. There is nobody else in position to stop him, which means that he needs to attack that basket. And that is exactly what he does here, and he's able to throw his body in front of this defender so that he can get position. He understands that this player is still moving in that direction, so if he gets hit, it's an automatic foul whether he makes the basket or not. And he's able to make that basket and doesn't get hit. Now we can see him playing man up on the other team's number 1 player. Again, he sits down low, like if he's in a chair, keeping his shoulders below that offensive player's shoulders so that that offensive player cannot get leverage into David. David's then able to shuffle his feet with that man, takes a quick running step, but when he takes that running step, he's able to keep his shoulders pretty well square with that offensive player and cuts off that drive. That offensive player then needs to back up and tries to attack once again. David's able to take that one running step and keeps his shoulders square with that offensive player, and he's able to direct him behind the backboard, which is a very hard shot to take, and obviously he's not going to be able to make that over David, who in fact is also standing straight up, keeping his hands above his head so that there is no foul to be called. He's not going to block this shot. He just needs to keep this shot really difficult, because who's going to score over that? Both of these players are about the same height. that other team's player is about an inch, maybe 2 inches taller than David, but David has a longer wingspan. He just needs to make that shot difficult, and that's what he did. Here we see him forcing this player right once again. Now, at the youth level, there's a few different ways that you can guard a player. You can force players left or right, or you can play him straight up, which makes this player make the decision in which direction that he has to go. So here, David is forcing him right because he understands that this player is a right-handed player. If he goes left, he can take a quick step back and have his right side automatically in line. So forcing him right is usually the better decision. He's giving him a little bit of space because now he's trying to keep his hands in the passing lanes, and he's got his hands up trying to cut away those passes. At this point, this player cuts to the basket, and watch what David does here. He's able to keep his eyes on his man, but also the ball handler, and he makes contact with that player to let him know, hey, I'm here, and you're not going to have an easy time. You always want to make contact with that offensive player, especially if it's the other team's best player, just so that you can get in his head. Now, this player pops out, and the ball handler drives to the basket. Now, the other team wasn't necessarily the most skilled. They have two players in the same position on the 5-out, and you have a player who's driving to the basket as well. So this does clog up the key for that player who drives, but David is actually very good. He's able to cut this off. He tries to get his hand in the passing lane, but all it takes is one step and a hop to get out to his man. Now he's playing him straight up. At this time, he's down low, playing his man straight up, and keeping his hands up. This is so that if this player tries to drive, his palms are up, he can swipe away at that crossover, or his hands are up so that he can cut away or take away those passing lanes. When this player is looking to either pass or drive, he's got the ball above his head, but watch how David is defending this. He takes a quick hop to his left, to his right, and staying down, playing him straight up. Trying to attack a defender who is playing you straight up is extremely hard, because if he was trying to force him right, then you could attack that top leg, and if he's trying to force you left, then you could attack that top leg, and he would be, as a defender, at a disadvantage. But playing a man straight up doesn't give this guy any options, because if you're quick laterally like David is, at that point, you can keep up with that offensive player quite easily. Now, with the ball above his head, David stands up a bit, keeps his hands again up in the passing lanes, but a bit higher, because he's able to get back down low if needed when this player attacks. David is able to then stay with that man by shuffling, and the man passes off the ball, understanding, or at least knowing, that he can't score on David. This is what happens when you get into a player's head. So if you're a defender, and let's say you're defending the other team's best player, what generally happens is if you can stop him from scoring a few times, stop him from driving to the basket, maybe contest a couple of his shots, at that point, now you're in his head. You don't even have to talk. You don't even have to trash talk. You just need to be able to stop that player from scoring and just make it difficult. Make a lot of contact off ball, and then keeping your hands in the passing lanes and palms up so that when he does cross over, you can steal that ball away from him. If you can get into their heads early, then the rest of the game should be pretty easy. This was a player who was averaging about 75% of the other team's total points, which is generally in that 15 to 20 point range for that player. Now, when you're looking at a player like that, you have to be able to take away that drive. You have to be quick laterally. You have to stay down low and keep your shoulders down low as well. I hope that you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys again next time.